Hello and welcome to the Medical Sales Podcast. I'm your host, Samuel, founder of a revolutionary medical sales training and mentorship program called the Medical Sales Career Builder, and I'm also host of the Medical Sales Podcast. In this podcast, I interview top medical sales reps and leading medical sales executives across the entire world. It doesn't matter what medical sales industry, from medical device to pharmaceutical to genetic testing and diagnostic lab, you name it, you will learn how to either break into the industry, be a top 10% performer within your role, or climb the corporate ladder. Welcome to the Medical Sales Podcast. And remember, I am a medical sales expert sharing my own opinion about this amazing industry and how it can change your life. Hello and welcome to the Medical Sales Podcast. I'm your host, Samuel. And today we have another episode where I'm going to be talking about some things that are critical for you to understand about medical sales. Today, we're actually going to crack open the myths. We're going to bust some of these myths, the top 10 myths in medical sales, what you need to know, what you don't need to know, what matters to you, and how to act on the information that I'm going to share with you today. You know, a lot of you have heard about medical sales. Like I said last time, we talk about the movies and the TV shows, and you have this idea that it's this really sexy job where you're just talking to these doctors all day and you're providing meals or taking them out to dinner and you're making six figures with your company car and life is just great. But the reality is you're impacting patients' lives. It's a grind all the time. Relationships and building them are everything. And at the end of the day, you have to love what you're doing each and every day to give it your best and to really have an impact in these people's lives, from the doctor down to the patient. So let's talk about it. And here, this is why it's important, guys. The reality is too many reps get into this space and they have false expectations and they get burnt out exceptionally quickly. And it's because they didn't really understand what they're getting into. I really do believe that for you to thrive in this life, for you to truly get the most out of the life you're living, you got to care about what you're doing. And you should know and at least have some sort of realistic expectation of what you're getting into so that you give yourselves the best chances to succeed. And that's what we're getting into today. And as a quick reminder, you know, not only have I been in the industry, but I think one of the reasons why I love talking about this is because with the position I've been able to have, I've gotten to see a lot of other people in a lot of other different industries, all within medical sales, from helping them get into those roles, from working with them within those roles, to helping the leaders come up with better ways to lead people within those roles. And it's given me a really good insight into the full picture of what it means to be medical sales. And without further ado, let's get into it. Okay, myth number one. You have to have a science degree or a background in medicine to get into medical sales. And that's just not true. In fact, 67% of medical sales reps that are active today do not have a science degree or a medical background. And yes, more clinicians like nurses and physical therapists are joining the medical sales industry, but it's still mostly populated by bachelor's degree professionals that do not have a bachelor's degree in medicine. Sales experience is still rated more important than education. Now, let me add a caveat to that. Than education when it comes to the minimum of having a bachelor's degree. Now, if you're an amazing sales rep and you do not have a bachelor's degree, there's definitely a window for you, an opportunity for you in medical sales. And even if you're not an amazing sales rep and you do not have a bachelor's degree, there's definitely an opportunity for you in medical sales. But the reality is, when you're competing against almost everyone else that has a bachelor's degree, it's just a little bit more challenging to be noticed and to be taken as seriously as someone that has one. It's just a bias of the industry that exists because the majority of reps do have a bachelor's degree. Now, let me get a little bit deeper into the nuance of this. One cool thing that's happening in the medical sales industry are reps that have a lot of experience, especially in medical device positions, that decide to start their own LLCs or companies and then hire people under them to do what they were doing. It's always been around, but right now there are so many resources to make that happen if that's your ambition. So because that's happening, you are having newer medical device companies that are very small, becoming more and more legitimate, for lack of a better word, and need sales reps. And those same types of entities are hiring people that do not have a bachelor's degree, and of course don't need to have medical experience or any kind of degree in science, but just need to show the competency that they can handle the information, and of course they can sell. And this is a growing and growing trend. Is it a leading trend? Not yet, but it is growing. And I say that just to kind of add more context that if you're someone listening right now and you have no bachelor's and you have no background in medicine and you have no background in sales and you still want to be in the medical sales industry, there is a space for you. Will it be difficult? Of course. Will you compete against people that have bachelor's degrees for W-2 positions that companies are very accustomed to usually hiring? Of course. But with the trend I just mentioned, there's still a space for you. Myth number 2, medical sales reps provide lunch, dinners, and play golf most of their time. Now, I wasn't sure if this should even make the list, but I felt it necessary because of the media. I think one great movie just came out. I do not remember the name, but it was about this pharmaceutical CEO that started a company during the opioid epidemic. It wasn't the leading company that was part of the opioid epidemic, but it was one of them. And all the success they had and all the nonsense they were doing. And it was a lot of glitz and glamour and dinners and lunches and golf and more stuff like that. Baseball games. Listen, in the pharmaceutical and medical device industry, maybe 20, 30 years ago, some of that did exist. There wasn't a lot of regulation back then. And the opportunity and even the way healthcare worked, it was ripe for that type of solicitation. And it was gray enough for some bad apples to just go ham and do what they want to do. Bad apples going ham. I got to write that down. But yes, bad apples just doing what they want to do, of course, tainting it for everyone else. However, regulation did get involved. If you look back to the early 2000s, companies were getting sued left and right. And this was because they were getting, caught with their pants down and doing all this crazy stuff that was tainting the industry. And then Obamacare came into play. The Sunshine Act came into play. It revolutionized everything, medical device and pharma and everything in between. And you have the environment you have today. And today, things like that just don't happen. It can't fly. There's way too much regulation, which is a good thing. And companies are, in essence, they have to act accordingly. And the reality is this: in medical sales, the bottom line, no, not the bottom line, the end user. And I guess you can say the bottom line is how well the patient is doing. And the end user is the patient. And that has become the focus of this industry. Even when the nonsense was going on back then, the majority of the industry was focused on patient improvement. Yeah, some bad apples doing some nonsense, especially in the opioid epidemic. But now, today, and even back then, the majority of the industry was focused on patient improvement. So being a medical sales rep, sure, you might have to do lunches sometimes, especially if you're in pharmaceutical sales where you're literally trying to get time with the doctors and the staff to showcase and explain why your medication is going to be so beneficial to a patient. Some of that exists in medical supplies, some of that even in medical device, but that doesn't mean that that's the only thing you do. Like I said, you're literally doing things like that just to get time, because any other time, the professionals, AKA the nurses, the physicians, and all the supporting staff are very busy. They don't have time to listen to whatever you have to say and talk about whatever you're trying to offer until there is time. And usually there's time around lunch or breakfast, or in some cases, even dinner. As far as golf, I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't know anyone that works for a pharmaceutical company that takes their physician golfing. Now, I do know a lot of reps that go golfing with their physicians when their physicians are not working and when those reps are not working. And if you're a golfer, I hope you're taking the time to get some swings in. But as far as expecting that to be your norm when you get into industry, you're going to be sorely mistaken. This is, in my opinion, one of the grittiest industries around. Sales. Sales is one of the grittiest jobs a man or woman can have. You're literally waking up every day to tell a bunch of people and get yeses from, to tell a bunch of people things that they might need and get yeses from them when they're prone and they're looking forward to telling you no. And your existence in this job is to change that every single day. Now, some days you're going to be killing it, and your solution is going to be so sensible that all you're going to get is yes. But then some days you're going to be not killing it, and you're going to get a lot of no's, and you're not going to want to get up. But guess what? That's the job. So you got to get up and do it over and over and over and over and over and over and over. And that is gritty, and that is sales. Now let's complicate that with the most educated person out there, right? I can't say doctors are the smartest people in the world because I'm not even sure I believe that. I think some of the smartest people are physicians, but so are financiers and techs and training, and we can go on and on and on. But I do believe that doctors are probably the most educated people on the planet, bar none. I mean, the amount of years certain physicians have had to go to school is astronomical. And now you have surgeons that are getting MBAs and PhDs. So yes, most educated. So now you have this gritty sales environment where you're spending your hours getting yeses out of people that want to say no. And you have the most educated person in the world that you're trying to invite to your solution. Put 2 and 2 together, it just gets grittier. And then on top of that, you got a quota, right? It doesn't matter where you work for. It doesn't matter what industry. Pharmaceutical sales, medical device, medical supplies, dental, I can go on. All of them require a quota, meaning you got to sell every day. You got to deal with the most educated people in the world every day. And then you better sell this many within this time. And that is just the reality. And the nature of this space is your quota just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. It does not matter how well you do. Your quota will get bigger. Now, the reps that are out there killing it and making all kinds of money and loving their jobs and changing patients' lives, they have completely adopted that culture. They understand that, and they come up with processes to make them successful, regardless what the quota is set to. You got to be someone that wants to do that. And that is the reality of medical sales. So the next time you're talking to someone or you're watching a movie and they're showing you the glitz and glamour and nonsense of what used to be in this industry, please remember these words because this is the reality. And one more thing. So I talked about the sales environment. I talked about the most educated person in the world. Then I talked about the quotas that the company you work for you have to meet. And then on top of all that, you have just getting access because hospitals want you to get certified or let me say it better. Hospitals want you to get credentialed. That's the name, credentialed, which means you have to go through all these tests and get all these vaccinations to make sure you're healthy enough to even be in the hospital. And then you have to go through whatever their rep vendor process is to get access to the physicians. And that's just usually the office. You still have to get to the actual physicians. And don't even let me get you started when you're talking about these more complex products like capital equipment where, yeah, the physician's great, but oftentimes that is not the decision maker. That's just part of the influence of the decision. You got to get to the C-suite. And for those of you that don't know what C-suite is, that's the people's whose titles begin with a C. For example, the CEO, the CCO, the CMO. Now, think about that. All those complex layers. You got to want to be here for the right reasons to make that a success, right? And of course, you got to love making money and love doing something with your time. But honestly, you have to love what's happening with the end user. Because to put yourself through all of those, for lack of a better word, complications, it's an art almost. Yeah, there are some processes that will definitely increase your chances of being successful. But there's a level of artistry you need to employ based on who you are as a person, how you show up when you talk to people, and you got to navigate that, right? If you're an extrovert, you're going to use that to your advantage. If you're an introvert, you're going to use that to your advantage. If you're someone that loves details and information and talking about it, you're going to use it to your advantage. If you're someone that's not so big on that, but you love relationships, you're going to use it to your advantage. And you got to figure that out. So again, this is a gritty space for people that are ready to get their hands dirty and change lives. All right, myth number 3. People that enter medical sales jobs all make $100,000 right away. So this one's fun because I would actually semi-agree with that. I'm still learning how you semi-agree with things, but let me explain. So most medical sales jobs are base pay plus commission. So let's just talk about those types of jobs. And you know what? Let me not say most. Let me say many, very, very many medical sales jobs are base pay plus commission. So usually the base pay is going to range from 40 to, in some cases, 100. Now 100 is a little bit more uncommon depending on who you are. but 80 is very common. So think 40 to 80. And then on top of that, you usually have a bonus. Now, in some industries like pharmaceutical sales, that bonus looks like $30,000 or $40,000. And in some industries like medical devices, that bonus can look like $150,000 in one quarter. Just depends on your space and what you're doing. But I would actually say that, yeah, most medical sales jobs do start close to 100 because you have that base plus commission component. Even if your base is 40 and your commission is 40 to 50 for the year, you do well, maybe get some kickers and you exceed goal a little bit, you're probably going to be right at 100. And of course, if you're getting 70, 60 to 80 is more common. If you're getting 60 to 80 is your base pay, and then you add 30, 40 on top of that, you can do the math. So, that's actually sort of true. I think the reason why it can be considered a myth is because that doesn't apply to everything. There are smaller companies out there that might start you lower. There are positions that are really low on the commission side. There are positions that have no base pay at all and all commission. And so, of course, in positions like that, you got to really earn your keep. And sometimes that might be just making 100. But I think what you can rest assured on is if you want to get into medical sales and you want to work for a company in a W-2 position, especially one of the larger companies, one of the top 20, 30, maybe even top 40, you are going to most likely have a base plus commission, and you are going to be very close to 100 or past it right out of the gate. So even though this is on the list of the top 10 busted myths, this one just needed a little bit more of a nuanced explanation. Myth number 4, you have to be an extrovert to be good at medical sales. Now, here's the rub here. I think this is hilarious. There was a survey done with thousands of reps, and the results from that survey came back that 47% of sales reps out there active today are actually introverts. So I'm sure when you hear the word extrovert, you're thinking of this, bombastic, just in your face person that's just like, yeah, let's do this. And that exists. Of course, that exists in the medical sales space. But medical sales is truly about relationships. And let's talk about that for a moment. What is a relationship, right? A relationship is the bond between two people and the impact they make in each other's lives. That's a relationship. And to have an effective relationship, you tell me, is it the bombastic, hey, let's talk, how you doing? Hey, yeah, those people, of course, they develop relationships. But when it comes down to really trusting someone, believing someone, knowing what someone is about, and really understanding and believing that this other person has your best interests, it's actually the more somber conversations, the private time, the, for lack of a better word, introverted type characteristics that lend to building very, very strong relationships, right? The extrovert can be classified as someone that shows up to the party and gets to know everyone. And that is going to take you far if you have that skill. But the introvert can be classified as someone that shows up to the same party and gets a deep connection with one person that also can take you very, very far. And in this world of medical sales, whether you're the person that can enter an office and serenade the entire room, or enter an office and make the champion of that office your best friend to do your bidding, both of them can be very successful. So when it comes to medical sales, you do not have to be an extrovert. And if you're an introvert, you can be just as successful as any extrovert out there. Myth number 5, only salespeople get hired into medical sales. Now, I kind of talked about this with the first myth, but now we're going to give it some proper time. So again, you heard me explain what it means to be a sales professional and the duty of a sales professional. So when it comes to medical sales, if I'm a hiring manager and I'm considering my options, I really do want to hire people that I believe can handle the duty of being a sales professional. How unfortunate would it be of me if I picked someone that did not have a proven track record for handling no's all day, every day, gets onto my team, is expected to sell the product that I represent on my team, and then because they start getting no's every day, they don't want to go to work anymore. Or worse, they just quit. That's a very real situation. And that's a reality that no hiring manager wants to experience. So a fair way to avoid that is to look for people that have that sales experience. But let's dial that back a second. It's 2025, and too many jobs require so much grit, just like a sales job. For example, you can be a server, and in some, I've seen some servers go through some things that I can't even get over how they're able to do that job. That's made them so bulletproof and so savvy and so good with relationships and talking to people and invited them to solutions. They've made amazing sales reps. You can take someone like a chef who has a ridiculously hectic environment to work in. Now, I will say, going back to the media, we all know that being a true chef is not easy work. From the TV, from the reality TV shows to the movies to the books, even, it's like, wow, this is some demanding, challenging work that they put themselves through each and every day. Again, that would make a fantastic sales rep. So there's all these types of positions that are very demanding, for lack of a better word, somewhat hectic, and forcing you to make decisions at a moment's notice and still be good with relationships. All of those types of jobs translate into a great professional that can do a medical sales job. And that's the environment we're in today. So, yes, of course, there's this assumption that if you have a sales background, if you have sales experience, you're going to be able to handle the grit of medical sales. But often that's not even true. There are such things as a bad sales rep and a good sales rep. So now it's a little bit more even in that it's not so much you need to showcase that you have sales, but we do want to see that you've been doing something that's as demanding, as challenging, and in some way, shape, or form, you receive no's or disagreements or having to work through constant challenges on a daily basis. So they believe that when you get into this sales job, where the end user is a patient's life, and you're dealing with the most educated people in the world, you do it powerfully. I hope you're enjoying today's episode. And I want to let you know our programs cover the entire career of a medical sales professional. From getting into the medical sales industry, to training on how to be a top performer in the medical sales industry, to masterfully navigating your career to executive level leadership. These programs are personalized and customized for your specific career and background, and trained by over 50 experts, including surgeons. Our results speak for ourselves, and we're landing positions for our candidates in less than 120 days in top medical technology companies like Stryker, Medtronic, Merck, Abbott, you name it. Would you run an Ironman race without training and a strategy? You wouldn't. So why are you trying to do the same with a medical sales position? You need training, you need a strategy, and you need to visit evolveyoursuccess.com, fill out the application, schedule some time with one of our account executives, and let's get you into the position that you've always dreamed of. Myth number 6, medical sales is just a 9-to-5 job. That is hilarious. So let's break that down. So there are many medical sales jobs that are 9-to-5. Basically, any medical sales job where the end user works 9-to-5 is a medical sales job where you work 9-to-5. However, as we should all know by now, there are many, many types of healthcare professionals, aka surgeons, aka trauma, aka any kind of disease state where it requires an orthopedic surgeon or a neurosurgeon, or even in some cases a plastic surgeon, that are doing surgeries at very interesting hours that you need to be ready for if you're going to be a medical sales rep in that space. That exists. And then, like I said, trauma, which is by definition, traumatic injuries that happen at a moment's notice, aka ER, where you don't even know when it's going to happen. You just got to be ready to jump into action. And so do all the clinicians you're working with. So yes, there are jobs in medical sales that are 9-to-5. And there are jobs in the medical sales that are not 9-to-5. That is not what you should use to decide, to help you decide on where you want to be. Now, if you're thinking, well, Samuel, I have to use that to decide because I have these responsibilities before 9 or 8 and these responsibilities after 5, then sure, focus only on those medical sales positions that are 9-to-5. But for those of you that don't need to restrict your time that way and just want to get into something that you love and you're passionate about, let the study of the space, so AKA whatever the science is, right? Whether it's urology or endoscopy or ear, nose, and throat or plastic surgery, whatever your study is, your interest is, let that be a big driver of what you want to choose. And then what's the impact on the end user? Let that be a driver of what you want to choose. And then most importantly, what is the lifestyle you'll be stepping into? Is it trauma? Is it ER? Do you want a pager and do you want to be available at all times? Is it something more along the lines of an ENT surgery where they're very scheduled and you can set up and be ready and handle the surgery and go on about your day? You got to make those decisions. Uh, there are resources, of course, that will show you how to make those decisions and help you come to a conclusion. But the lifestyle, I would say the lifestyle is the most important thing. And there are both 9 to 5 medical sales jobs and non 9 to 5 medical sales jobs. Myth number 7, anyone can do medical sales. Now, that is like, for me to hear that, that's like a loaded statement because I am a believer. I am what you call a dreamer. And dreamers truly do believe that anyone can do anything. I am one of those people. However, I will still say that when it comes to medical sales, you want to just check yourself on a few things. Because, sure, anyone can do anything, but let's be honest, not anyone wants to do anything. And most people don't want to do anything. Most people want to do what they like, what they're good at, what they can get good at, what they can grow within, what they can be good at and get them a lot of compensation and get them really purpose of life. That's most people. So when that's what's in mind, you got to ask yourself, okay, so who should be doing medical sales? And I'll keep it simple. I do believe that if you're someone that wants to do medical sales, check yourself for these things. Do you care about patient outcomes? It should be somewhere there. Do you care about making money? It should be somewhere there. Are you someone that appreciates and can get into the weeds of what it means to be in healthcare? Some of that should be there. Are you someone that's coachable? You better have some of that. Are you someone that can get gritty? Now, that's a real question, and only you know the answer. But if you can't get gritty, if you can't dig deep and make things happen whenever they need to, and you just know that about yourself, and you prefer to have a little bit more laxed, a little bit less pressure, then, maybe medical sales is not for you. So you got to have some of these elements to truly love what you're doing and thrive. It doesn't mean you won't thrive. It doesn't mean you won't love it. It just means this is what I have seen through hundreds and thousands of people to come to the conclusions to share this with you. So if you are none of these things and you want medical sales, let me know if it works out. Go to yourbarbersuccess.com, go to the podcast page, leave a message just for me telling me how well you did. But for anyone else, I really do think that checking these things before you pursue a medical sales career will help put a lot of things in context. And in addition to that, one thing that I must stress is you got to appreciate studying. I'm not going to sit here and say you love studying. You don't have to love studying, but you got to appreciate studying. In medical sales, the information technology is always changing. There was another survey done where it said 73% of reps, active medical sales reps, study 5 hours a week minimum. Now, I know a lot of medical sales listen to this saying, I don't. And some of them are saying, I study way more than that. I don't know who you are, but I'll say this. If you want to be a good rep, if you want to be a killer, you better know your stuff. If you want to deal with the most educated person ever, you better know your stuff. So from my vantage point, you got to sell and invite people to solutions and be ready for hearing no's while dealing with the most educated person, while dealing with the company that's holding quotas over your head. The best thing you can do for yourself is deeply know your stuff. And that means the drug or the device. That means the condition. That means what's legal, what's not. That means your customer. That means what they need and what they don't need. That means truly knowing your stuff. And then, of course, that also means knowing the human body, right? You don't need a medical degree to be in my medical sales. You don't need to practice medicine, but you better learn the human body and you better learn the medicine because that's what you're going to be doing every day. So it serves you to take the time. And if you know you're not that kind of person and you hate studying and you don't like new information and you prefer to live in a box and you're like, get that stuff away from me, then I will absolutely tell you that medical sales is probably not for you. Okay, myth number 8. Myth number 8 is once you get into medical sales, it's very easy to stay successful. I wish that were true. Here's the reality. Maybe about 15 years ago, I was talking to these sales reps. I was a sales rep, and an experienced, high-performing sales rep said to me, Sam, you understand this is the job where your employer is always saying one thing. What have you done for me lately? What does that mean? That means that you could have 5 years of consistent success. And in your 6th year, if you tank the first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, and fourth quarter, you're going to start getting questions. And if it continues, you can most likely lose your job. So does that mean that this industry is cutthroat and it's just crazy? No, it doesn't mean that, but it does mean that being successful in medical sales is not an event. Being successful in medical sales is a way of life. And to make being successful a way of life means you are consistently doing things on the nose each and every day. Those little habits that you're building over time that don't ever stop, that allow you to experience success over and over and over again. And to be able to build those little habits and keep them consistent, it's going to require work each and every day. And that's what people are talking about. It's not that it's easy, but it's that it's required to put in the work. And if you consistently put in the work, and I'm not going to sit here and say it's going to be easy for you, but you will be a consistent performer. And when you're doing this all the time and this is second nature, yeah, I guess you can say it's easy and you're going to be consistently performing. However, a nice, cool thing that is not being successful is easy, but is along those lines is that once you get into medical sales, you'll always have a job. Now, I truly believe that. Here's the caveat. Once you get into medical sales and you establish yourself as a performer, mark my words, write this down, you will always, with a capital A, have a job. And that's the cool thing about the medical sales industry. For those that take the time to get good at the craft and be amazing sales professionals that find success, regardless the company you put them on, regardless the team you assign them with, you're always going to have a job. And oftentimes when you lose a job, whether you left on your own or you got fired or the division ended and you have to be laid off, you're going to find an even better job because there are so many players now in the medical sales space that are all looking for talent. And as we've described all these myths, we've been talking about how diligent of a person you need to be that talent. So when that person is out of a job, they're usually tapped on the shoulder before they can sit back down, or they've been hunted the whole time anyway. So if they're actually leaving a position, it's to jump into an even better one. And that is very true. Myth number 9, medical sales is all cold calling and door-to-door selling. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that that's not a big part of it because it just is. Now, of course, in 2025, there are jobs that are remote only. There are, in fact, one growing trend is the medical sales virtual rep. So these are reps that they are literally only on the phones and they're calling doctors' offices and hospitals and clinicians that are in remote spaces that the live reps, the in-person reps aren't always getting to, and they're trying to solicit business. This is a growing trend. So many medical sales companies are adding divisions of virtual reps to their companies because they're seeing that there's some value in having someone consistently call until they get some traction, especially in an office or in an account that is hard for reps to get access to. These virtual reps are game changers. And that is a growing trend, and that is becoming a more popular profession. Do they make as much money as regular medical sales reps? Of course not. Do they have as much a dynamic lifestyle as regular medical sales reps? Of course not. And are there the same level of requirements that you expect from a live rep, from virtual rep? It's debatable, but it is different. Besides that, though, there's a lot involved with being a medical sales rep. It's not just door to door. It's not just cold calling. It's not just covering cases. It's not just trying to break into the C-suite. It's literally all of the above. In some positions, you're going to be covering cases, trying to get access to C-suite and serenading the nurses. In some positions, you're going to be just dealing with the staff in an office. In some positions, you're going to be sending emails, a lot of them, while sending live mails, while soliciting the gatekeepers of training institutions like your universities that have a special focus and a special division of science that they are very proud of. You got to break those barriers. And sometimes that looks nothing like just cold calling and door-to-door selling. That looks like some really creative approach that brings the right people out to have a conversation and give you access. It's very dynamic. So, the big thing you can take away with this myth is it's a dynamic space. And it's not so much about, oh my gosh, I got to knock on these doors. Oh my gosh, I got to call these people. It's, oh my gosh, I need to do whatever it takes to get me access so that this person can utilize my solution to help their patients be better. Myth number 10. Do you need to know someone to get into medical sales? Okay, let's talk about it. This one's tough because you kind of do, but you don't have to know someone before you know someone. What that means is you can find someone to help you into medical sales. The reality of today's day and age is so many people get into the industry through programs. There's amazing programs that you can actually involve yourself in that literally give you everything you need to become a medical sales rep, including the connections, and send you on your way. Do you have to have that to become a medical sales rep? No, you don't have to have that. But is it becoming so competitive that it's kind of challenging to become one without one? Yeah, I know thousands of people that will back that up. I mean, it really is tough. But knowing someone helps, but it comes with a lot more. Number one, you got to have the transferable skills. It doesn't matter if you know someone if you don't got the transferable skills. And number two, and I say this is probably the most important, you better know what the heck you're getting yourself into. There's nothing more frustrating than people trying to get a job that they really don't understand. And that is all exposed in the interview process. And even worse, if you get the offer and you get the job, when you get the job. So the best favor you can do yourself if you want to get into this medical sales space is find out and truly be inquisitive about what the heck is going on in the spaces you think you want. Not only will that help you in the interview process and get someone saying, wow, the fact that you took the time to understand what's required, you already get a check mark in my book. And then you add your transferable skills on top of that. And then if need be, you put yourself in a program, you're locked, stocked, and ready to go. And those were the top 10 myths in medical sales. I would love to know what you think about these myths. Do you have some of your own? If you do, please visit evolveyoursuccess.com. Go to our podcast page. Little pop-up is going to appear that's going to ask you to suggest an episode and share with us what you think a myth is. Or if that is too much for you, then you're anywhere near your email, then find your email hello@evolveyoursuccess, and let us know whatever you think myths are. I would love to do this again and utilize what you guys are hearing out there and, of course, dispel those myths. As always, we do our best to bring you innovative information and hopefully change your life so you can be closer to what you really want, whether that be a medical sales position, to thrive in medical sales, or your second or third act after a medical sales career. Make sure you tune in next week for another episode of the Medical Sales Podcast. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. And remember, I have a customized and personalized program that gets you into the medical technology industry as a sales professional, or any type of role for that matter. Become a top performer in your position and masterfully navigate your career to executive level leadership. Check out these programs and learn more at evolveyoursuccess.com by visiting our site, filling out an application, schedule some time with one of our account executives, and allowing us to get you where you need to be. Stay tuned for more awesome content with amazing interviews on the Medical Sales Podcast.